This is from this last year's NCAA tournament, so 2024. This is for 7th place at 174 pounds. And I think there's a lot that you can learn from this match, which is why I'm showing it to you, and we'll talk you through some of the techniques. Both of these guys have good stances that, like I show on my instructional and on my channel, right, where they're like a hybrid stance. They got a good squat. They're protecting their lead leg. See how he's protecting his lead leg when he posts on the head? But they seem very apprehensive to get close to each other, to get past the hands. They might know each other for all I know. So he takes a shot from space, and we'll slow it down so I can show you what it looked like. So neither guy is really committing much here, and the ref is yelling at Army because his back is to the edge of the mat. And he actually hits him for stalling here. That's actually the sign for stalling. Watch when Army reaches. See, he goes under. So he didn't get past the hands at all, which is kind of rare at this level, to be honest. But sometimes guys just want to get it going. All right, so back to the center. You can see these guys are really apprehensive about reaching. They're apprehensive about trying to get into each other's ties. He does a really nice outside single. I'll show you this in slow motion. Ties up the legs beautifully. That's exactly what you want to do. You don't want to be trying to chase people's waistline. Okay, so watch this. He clubs, outside single, classic setup, and he steps right up with it. Chase him down. See how he gets that far leg? So it's the same thing that I show on my instructional and on the channel from avoiding a dogfight situation. Coming up to the waist gives you the dogfight. So he's got that wrist trapped, cross wrist on this side. And he's going to do what looks to be like a gut wrench, but it's not a gut wrench. You don't gut wrench in folk style. He's trying to get a tilt here. Okay, and he just rolled all the way through. So when you're the top man, you want to be smart. And see, he's burning out the clock. See this riding time clock at 35, 36, right? That's him in control for that much time. Now in collegiate wrestling, if you have a minute of riding time, more than the other person at the end of the match, then you get 1 point. You only get 1 point. So if you had 5 minutes of riding time, you don't get 5 points. You only get 1. So you can see here, 54 seconds on the clock. Now this means he only needs 6 seconds to be over a minute. Now, the other guy, if he gets a takedown or if he starts on top on another period, can start erasing that riding time. But, if you can secure your riding time, you can let the guy go, and essentially it nullifies the escape point. So look, he lets the guy go. Okay? You never do that. So he did a good stand-up here, but his hands were locked. He should have been able to mat return him, and he did a classic, watch how he turns his shoulder and then hip switch. But 58 seconds of riding time. So now he doesn't have it. So in order to get 2 more seconds, he needs to be in control. So now it's 1-3. And again, these guys are super apprehensive about making contact. And so he tries again to the same move, and now he just sort of stuffs him. So he didn't get anywhere with that. He didn't get past the hands. The first time he had reached up when he did that left club and then you see he's a little closer. Now we can rewind that. So he goes left club, same move, right? Outside single, but you see that down block? All right, so we're going to rewind this. Look at Ruth's down block. See how he blocked him there? So that's exactly like I show in the instructional with the down block. Okay, now they end up in this over-under position, which is really 50-50, and they seem to be very okay. Most people would be really trying to score hard from these positions, but they're going to probably just try to ride out the rest of the period. This happens a lot. Not in my day. People don't concede a second in my day. It seems to be the case that people don't waste the energy nowadays. And see, this is a good example here of the guy from Army. He's tying him up here. See how he's got him super close in that collar tie? In jiu-jitsu, people are using the collar tie like that to score, but you're not going to score from a collar tie ear to ear like that because everywhere I move, you move. And so it is a stalling tactic. Forehead to forehead is what you want if you want to be offensive. ear to ear is what you do if you want to be defensive. So keep that in mind, because when you see guys tying up now and they get to this ear to ear position, everywhere you go, I go. You're locked in. Okay, so he chooses bottom, right? Because if he gets an escape point, then he'll be up 4-1. But now Ruth's job is to ride him hard on top, because if he can start erasing this riding time, then it won't be a factor if the Army guy gets back on top. That guy from Army is stalling so bad on the bottom. It's like he's just okay with riding out his riding clock. So you see how the clock is going backwards from 30 seconds. And he really should be getting hit for stalling down here, because he's not trying to escape. And in collegiate wrestling, the bottom man needs to be trying to get out. He's making it look like the top man is doing so much work, but he's really not. And so if you get a fresh start, which might be what he's trying to do to get a stalemate, then he might have an easier time getting out. But you see now the clock is really going in the opposite direction. Okay, pretty soon here, it's going to start going in Ruth's favor. Okay, and so Ruth is riding a good 2-on-1 wrist here. And a lot of times, you can do a tilt from there. But see, they stopped it, right? So these guys are banged up, man. They're at the end of a tournament, at the end of the season. And, collegiate wrestling is so hard on your body, man. See, now he gets a fresh start with about a minute left on the clock. And riding time's not a factor, because Ruth has only got 5 seconds of riding time now in his favor. Okay, and so that's a false start. So in collegiate wrestling, if you move before the whistle, they'll give you a caution. You have to do it a few times before they start really penalizing you, but you get a few cautions before they start awarding points in the other direction, but rarely ever happens. They let you move before the whistle all the time. So now they should warn Ruth for not trying to keep it into the mat, because when the guy from Army stands up, if Ruth from Illinois just decides to push him out, right, he's helping himself, because he gets a few seconds of riding time and he can't score when he's out of bounds. So the ref should be watching that. Okay, but now that's a nice hip heist turn in. Okay, so now you can see the riding time is only set at about 13 seconds. Scores 2-4. All right, so it's kind of on Ruth to really chase him down right now, because a lot of guys are okay with keeping a lead. So he takes another shot. We see how far his head was down. And from my opinion, it looks like he's just trying to keep the refs off his back. I don't think he's really trying hard to score. He's not very in a desperate reason to. But that's a smart move that he did there. So now Ruth does a good job wrapping up the leg. So this is where you see high-level wrestling. See, he goes to the high C instead of the outside single, and it costs him. Ruth takes his back here, and watch how he chases the thighs, not like up high on the waist. That shuts the scramble down. A highly athletic person, you want to wrap him up at the legs. He does a very good job at doing that. The higher the levels of wrestling, the more you see people wrapping up the legs. See, this is a fundamental thing that I teach, starting from kids, that you want to wrap up like around the thighs. Now in jiu-jitsu, because there's no shoes, you kind of don't want to wrap up anywhere beneath the knees, because it's slippery. Shoes do help. So he tried to do that sit out turn in, and it kind of cost him. And he's just going to kind of smash him here. I mean, this is 174. These guys do not weigh 174. I bet you they're closer to 195. I bet you're close to 200, to be honest with you right now, because this is the last day of the tournament. And even though they weighed in this morning, they ate a lot probably, because they didn't have to, wrestle all day. Like, they had some breaks, and because they were already situated in a good spot to go for 7th and 8th. But they're also probably full of salt and water and food. Okay, so now Ruth is up, right? He's got 32 seconds of riding time. Still not a factor. 2 minutes left in the match. Guys are still apprehensive about really locking up and trying to move each other from inside there, which is very rare at this size. Guys this size. So he didn't even get anywhere with that. Because you see how Ruth is dropping his hips? As he drops his hips, he's not getting anywhere near it. See? Hips lower than his. Look, boom. Not getting an outside single. Now, he should have probably used that to pull him into a front headlock. Notice how the pace is getting picked up now, too. right? He really wants to score. And see, Ruth is in the driver's seat. He's got no stalling calls. He's got a minute and a half on the clock. And this overtie position from the guy from Army, Ruth really has an outside single, like all day long. If he wants to shoot that outside single because of that overtie, that's not a good position to hang out in. That's a position that you use to shuck somebody by. You hang out there, you're basically just giving the guy the outside single. But he doesn't need to shoot. All Ruth needs to do is maintain a very good stance, low hands, right? So he has the down block. And that was a nice little transition. Tries to go to a side body lock here to break his posture, and then he makes the mistake trying to throw him with a double over. So watch this. He's already down there. He shoots a nice outside single. He comes up to the waist, right, because he was trying to get to the back. He actually steps in the middle here for a second. Should have done a Sarah's body lock here, but see, homie stands up straight, so then he tries to go and throw him back, right? Because when the guy from Army stood up straight, that gave him the opportunity to back trip him. And then the guy from Army tried to used his double overhooks as a desperation move to throw him. But see how he dropped his hips lower than his and then put his hips far back? That keeps that double overhook throw. And when somebody tries to double overhook throw you, if you drop your hips and put your butt out and far away, then he can't bump hip to hip to you, which is what he needs to get that throw to work. So you notice now, guy from Army can stand up when he needs to get out. He couldn't stand up earlier. He's kind of dogging it. Now he really needs to score. And because he's desperate, he's kind of opening up more. He can't help it. He needs to get after it, right? And if Ruth trusts in his takedown game, boom. Oh, man. So this is where you really start wrecking somebody's spirit. So he goes to the boot scoot. See how his hands are in the way? Second line of defense, right? Now he tries to go to the high C here, and he doesn't dump him because you see how Ruth's body is moving the other direction. Keeps his hips back. Switches directions. Could have arm dragged that right there, but just sort of went to both hands on the hips, stays low and behind him. Really good classic fundamental wrestling, being safe. He's just chasing the hip line and just blast right through that double. See, that's why I don't like those underhooks, because watch this underhook. He just pins it because he stays low. He just takes his underhook and uses it against him by pinning it to his body. And then he's kind of trying to be like, I need a desperate throw here, and it's not going to work. Hips down and away. Stays low, finishes low on the shot. Right? So very fundamental wrestling, right? And if you watch my instructional, I always say that whenever you get to somewhere, you wrap up the legs at the thighs, below the waist, not above the waist, right? So very good classic fundamental wrestling at a very high level. And so I'm going to continue to do more of this. If you guys enjoyed this, please consider contributing to the channel.